This is a Rattle and Hum Sports podcast on Tuesday, June the 4th, 2013. I'm Bryan Houston, and we are glad to be talking Dallas Cowboys football right now with Rattle and Hum Sports contributor Matthew Postins. How you doing, Matthew?
Fine, Brian. How are you?
I'm doing well. We've got a little bit of fodder to talk about today. As usual, the dysfunctional Jerry Jones family does it again. Jerry Jones says Bill Callahan is going to be calling the plays for the Dallas Cowboys in 2013. Head coach Jason Garrett won't confirm anything. Okay, you tell me what's going on here.
Well, to hear Jerry tell it, he said, well, everybody's pretty much already figured out that Bill Callahan's going to call the plays, so let's just go ahead and tell everybody. So Jerry told everybody, and Bill Callahan confirmed it. And Jason Garrett said, well, I'm not ready to confirm that yet. Well, it doesn't matter at this point. Two people have already confirmed it, including the guy who's going to call the plays. So, this is just Jerry being Jerry. I mean, we shouldn't be surprised by it because he's done it so many times. But yet, when it happens, we all are like, what? I can't believe he just did that. And yet he's been doing it for 25 years.
But the amazing thing to me, Matthew, is that he has shown more respect to Barry Switzer and Wade Phillips than he has to Jason Garrett. And Jason Garrett seems to deserve and command more respect than those two guys did. I mean, I think he even showed more respect to Dave Campo than he's shown to Jason Garrett here recently. What's going on?
It's really hard to say. I think from my standpoint, this is just Jerry Jones deciding that he knows best, that he believes he knows what's best for the football team, and that he's going to go ahead and do whatever he has to do to make this team better, which, over the course of the last 6 months, we've seen him change the defensive philosophy, hire a new defensive coordinator, obviously minimize Jason Garrett in other ways, change the play caller, all of which Jason Garrett says he's okay with. Well, of course, Jason's going to say he's okay with. He's the head coach, and he's got the job. But to me, you look at this, there's no way in the world you can sit there and say that Jason Garrett has a whole lot of authority in that locker room anymore. I think the players respect him, and I think the players will play for him. But I think when, push comes to shove and there are those situations where, you're supposed to look to the head coach and say that's the number one authority in the whole team, that's what's lacking right now. Everybody knows that when it's that number one decision that has to be made, it's going to be Jerry.
Well, the thing that's so striking to me about this, and I don't want to cast aspersions on anybody else, but, in both Barry Switzer's case and in the case of Wade Phillips, maybe even in the case of Dave Campo, I mean, there was a bit of a buffoon characteristic in some of these guys. Jason Garrett carries himself very professionally, and it just seems like Jerry Jones has gone out of his way to emasculate him here in the last 3 or 4 months.
Well, I really don't see a whole lot of difference in what he's doing to Garrett as opposed to what he did to Campo or to Switzer.
I
don't see a lot of difference because he's done this time and again.
I don't
Jerry
either.
Jones, I'm in charge. I'm going to make the decisions, and there's nothing you can do about it as the head coach because I own the team. I don't see a whole lot of difference between it. I mean, yes,
I don't see.
Jason Garrett has commands much more respect, but I don't see any difference in what Jerry Jones is doing to him.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I don't see there's any difference in what Jerry's doing, but I just see that Jason Garrett has earned a little bit more respect than these other two guys have. The other three guys, let's go, all the way through. I mean, he's handling this situation now in a very, very strange situation. If his affection for Jason Garrett is what he says it is, man, I don't want him for my friend. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, you would think that as much praise as Jerry has heaped upon Jason Garrett over the past 7 years, let's not forget the years he was the offensive coordinator, you would think he would have more respect for Jason Garrett, and you would think he would provide him with more of what we would consider to be more of the traditional role for the head coach in the organization, but he simply hasn't done it because that's not what Jerry Jones does. He's all about himself. He's all about his ego. He's all about being the decision maker. And it's all about validating himself and validating the way he does things. He firmly believes that the way he does things will eventually win this team a world championship. And until that happens, he will continue to do things the way he has done them for the last 20 years and continue to drive off, good coaches in the process. I think Jason Garrett, if for some reason he were to be fired at the end of this year and find another job somewhere else, I think he might thrive in a different environment where the head coach general manager dynamic is much more of the traditional dynamic that I think all of us are used to.
I mean, to look at some of the coverage today, Bill Callahan looked like he was being coronated as the head football coach.
Well, Jerry, I haven't seen all the video yet, but, Jerry has a tendency to make those things a big deal. And, I would hate to sit there and say that Bill Callahan's maybe the head coach of this football team in 2014, but, Jerry Jones has certainly put him in a position where he's going to have an extraordinary amount of say over what happens in the offense. And, I think the thing with Bill Callahan that you get that maybe you don't get with Jason Garrett is maybe you get a bit more of a commitment to balance. I mean, Bill Callahan is an offensive line guy. He's a running game guy. He doesn't ignore the passing game. I mean, all you have to do is look at that Oakland team that he was the head coach of that went to the Super Bowl to get an indication of that. But he does commit to balance a bit more than Jason Garrett has committed to it over the past 3 years. And that would be the one thing that I would look at in terms of Callahan as the play caller. And, some of it, you've got to have better line play. You've got to have a healthy DeMarco Murray. But if the factors are there, I think Callahan will get the offense more in balance, more into the balance that Jason Garrett has been talking about the last few years that he hasn't been able to accomplish.
I'll come back to that in just a second because I was going to ask you about his qualifications for calling the plays in this particular system. I want to get back to Jason Garrett for just a moment because in any other workplace, the way he has been treated over the last few months, it would almost look like Jerry is trying to get him to resign.
I don't think he wants him to resign. I think he just wants the team to be successful and be able to take all the credit. I think that if this team went 11-5 or 12-4 every year and went to the playoffs and went to the Super Bowl every 3 or 4 years, I think he'd be content to have Jason Garrett as his head coach for 20 years.
I would hope so.
But, yeah, you would think, but I don't think he's trying to drive him off. I think it's just Jerry's personality and the way Jerry wants to do things that is severely minimizing Garrett at this point. I liken it to this. Jason Garrett is a manager in a high-pressure workplace, and usually managers that are in high-pressure workplaces get to make all the decisions. Well, this is not a situation in which he gets to make all the decisions. This may be the one high-pressure workplace in the NFL where the head coach doesn't make the majority of the decisions.
Well, I could go even a step further and say, does he get to make any decisions?
Oh, I think he gets to make some. I think he gets heavy input into plenty of their decisions. But if you were to line up the final decisions that head coaches make in other organizations and the final decisions that Jason Garrett gets to make with the Cowboys, I dare say the ratio imbalance is going to be anywhere from 2-1 to 3-1.
Okay, well, let's go back just a few weeks, or actually a few months. Already what's happened is that Jason Garrett's brother, John Garrett, no longer part of the staff. That was a Jones move. Defensive coordinator Rob Ryan was a coach that Garrett liked and admired, and he was removed by Jerry Jones. Jason's long-time play-calling duties now taken away. I mean, what's left?
For him to be the walk-around head coach that everybody believes that he should be, based on the model of Jimmy Johnson when they won 2 Super Bowls in 5 years. We're going to find out if Jason Garrett can be a walk-around head coach, can be a guy who can delegate things like play calling and game managing over to other coordinators and just be in charge of managing the game. It's, I'm not saying the paradigm of being a head coach play caller is a bad thing. We've seen it be successful, but we're going to see if Jason Garrett can be a game manager type of head coach this year. And there isn't a whole lot left for him at this point. But He is still head coach of the football team, and on game day, he does still get to make most of the decisions. I won't say he gets to make all the decisions, but he gets to make most of them. So that's going to have to be enough for him right now.
I mean, I appreciate what you're saying in terms of the role, but the bottom line is, if you're comparing him to Jimmy Johnson hired his own staff. He made all the calls. He was in charge. Jason's gotten to do none of that. And that's proven out today by the fact that an offensive line coach that I don't know if Jason Garrett had much say in even hiring him is now the offensive coordinator and the play caller. And, it's one thing to be the walk-around head coach when you're the guy that's hired all the coaches, that's drafted all the players, that has say over personnel and can cut people. If you're talking about Bill Belichick, that's one thing. But when you're trying to be the walk-around head football coach and you basically have made no decisions because you've had all those taken away from you, I just don't know how you function.
Well, it would seem that the only crime that Jason Garrett has committed at this point is that he didn't go to college with Jerry Jones at Arkansas. Because since Jimmy Johnson left, it's been all Jerry Jones making all the decisions for this football team, with a brief respite with Bill Parcells. And the only reason he turned to Bill Parcells was because he needed him. Otherwise, it's been Jerry running the show. I think Jimmy was just the one guy he couldn't overpower immediately. And it took him 5 years to finally wear Jimmy down and get him out of the head coach's office. Everybody since then, he's the dominant personality in the room. And you look at the history of head coaches with this team, even with Jimmy Johnson lasted the longest. He lasted 5 years. All the other guys, anywhere from 2 to 4 years. So it's a short shelf life to be a head coach of this football team because you're working for a guy like Jerry Jones who has the dominant personality, wants to be involved in every single decision, and wants to be the final decision maker in just about every decision off the field.
Well, and I would say that the only time they've had success in all that time was with Jimmy Johnson and with Bill Parcells, and both of those guys were stronger personalities than even Jerry. So those are the only two guys, and Jerry only brought Parcells on when he was absolutely desperate. He had done all he could to run that program into the ground, and then had to have Parcells come in to pull it out of the fire, and then ran him off after just 4 years because it wasn't fun. So it's very maddening. And if I was Jason Garrett, I don't know that I wouldn't just go ahead and resign, because what he's done to Jason at this point is beyond humiliation, it looks like to me. Am I being overreactive when I say that?
I would say you're being a little overreactive, only in the sense that we really don't have a true understanding of their dynamic as a general manager and a head coach. We have what we see. We have what they talk about when they talk to the media. Well, but we really don't have a huge concept of what goes on in the room between the two of them when the doors are closed and there are no TV cameras. That's the only way. That's the only time I would say that's the only differentiator that I would make. And we won't know what goes on between the two of them until one of them is no longer with the organization.
Well, the only thing that makes me say this, and I don't want to belabor this, but the fact is that Jerry Jones and Bill Callahan both confirmed that Callahan's going to be calling the plays, and Jason Garrett, your head coach, still will not confirm it. That's a major disconnect.
Well, it brings a level of absurdity that I didn't think you could bring to this situation, that's for certain.
I mean, it's just beyond. I don't know. Again, I'm not a head football coach, and I don't get paid the big bucks, but it just seems like Jerry's doing everything he can to force Garrett to just go ahead and say, look, I'm out of here. So that's my opinion, and we'll move on. Okay.
Let's not forget how much he's paying Jason Garrett.
Well, but again, there comes a point where you have to think, that how much is your pride worth? How much is your how much is your professional integrity worth? And I don't know that there's enough money in the world to be treated the way that Garrett's being treated right now that makes this worthwhile. Well,
I would say right now his prize is worth about $3 million a year.
Fair enough. Okay. Now we get back to the things that you were talking about in terms of Bill Callahan. Yes, he is an offensive line coach. Yes, he's likely to be more committed to the run game. But there are some problems here. Bill Callahan, when he was a play caller, he's a Gruden guy. He's a West Coast guy. Now you're talking about bringing him in, turning him over to call the plays, in a basically Jason Garrett, Norv Turner, Ernie Zampese offense. There are different names, there are different numbers. At the time, Wade Wilson was the guy that was kind of interpreting those things. I mean, is Callahan really up to the task of calling plays for this offense, which is not his offense? It's a hybrid of previous Cowboy offenses.
Well, I think that's going to be an interesting piece of it, because if you look at the old, if you look at the hybrid Cowboys offenses, especially the ones that were successful in the 90s, they weren't, they were pretty balanced. They ran the ball well, they threw the ball well, and everybody hears West Coast and they think, well, we're going to throw the ball around the yard. Well, there is a certain running element to the West Coast. Bill Walsh actually preached balance, and he's the guy who pretty much came up with the West Coast offense in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
When they had a guy like Roger Craig back there, they ran the ball incredibly well. Everybody forgets that Roger Craig had several thousand-yard seasons rushing the football
Sure.
in San Francisco. So, the West Coast principles and the principles that Zampese and Norv Turner put together, they're not that much different. I think the big difference in the two offenses, if you just look at it from a 35,000-foot view, is that the Norv Turner type offense wants to get the ball downfield more than you do in the West Coast offense. So that's the one clear difference. And the thing is, if the Cowboys run the ball better, if they could just run the ball average in the NFL, that's going to help the deep passing game a lot more, and it's going to help their shorter passing game a lot more, because a good running game sucks defenders to the line of scrimmage and creates space, not just deep down the field, but also in the flat areas. And those are the areas where the West Coast offense really allows you to exploit holes in the defense.
Okay, and then let's talk a little bit about some of the other issues here. Big story last week coming out of the one of the .coms, bloggingtheboys.com, did a great job of enterprise reporting. They took the picture of the draft board behind Jerry Jones, analyzed it. Basically, what it showed, if you look at it with all the moving parts, is that the Cowboys, and you talked about it in the past, about them passing on a guy like Sharif Floyd, who somebody in the building had as the fifth best player in the draft, and the Cowboys had a chance to take him at 18. They also had a chance to take tight end Tyler Eifert, who was ranked number 1 on their board. They had defensive end Bjorn Werner ranked in their top 18, and they passed on all these guys to reach for Travis Frederick, who they had listed as a second-round pick. So the question becomes, not only is Jerry Jones disconnected with his head coach, but does he basically not listen to or trust his scouts?
There are a lot of different factors there. I mean, you talked about how Frederick was valued as a second-round pick. That is true, but he was also valued as the number 22 player on their overall board. So even though he had a second-round grade, you could contend that he was a first-round pick because he was at number 22. Now, Floyd, according to Jerry Jones, or according to sources within the organization, both Rob Marinelli and Monty Kiffin said he wasn't a good scheme fit. Personally, to me, if the number 5 player on the board falls to you, number 18, you take him and you find a way to use him. But, they're the guys that are making that decision, not me. The one that I find curious now is Tyler Eifert, because he was number 15 on their board. To me, if you're gonna go all out for this, 12 offensive formation with the 2 tight ends, why not take the guy who is far and away the best tight end in the draft, in Tyler Eifert? Why not take him there and then come back around in the second round and perhaps get Travis Frederick? And
he would have been there.
Then all of a sudden we're talking about how great this draft was, because you have the number 1 tight end on the board, and you have a great center that you got great value for, and then you get either Terrence Williams or J.J. Wilcox in the 3rd round, and suddenly you've got a great draft. I think what it really boiled down to is they wanted the extra pick, and they really didn't care how they got it. So